Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And this one is straight out of New York City. And to get started, I want to ask my fellow listeners, which city do you think is going to get decimated and destroyed first? Is it Chicago under Mayor Brandon Johnson? Is it New York City under their mayor who has just been indicted? We know that the Puffy Combs scenario is going on. He's been indicted in New York City. We know Atlanta is having a lot of issues down there. And of course, the entire state of California. But getting back to New York City, the Eastern and Southern District of New York City is going to be extremely busy with the FBI indicting all kinds of people. And of course, like I said, we know that Mayor Adams has been indicted. We know Puffy has been indicted. We know several other entertainers that have been indicted. And this story is about a female police officer. Not that she committed murder against one civilian, but she got involved in a chasm of drug trafficking that has the potential to kill hundreds of people. And thank God that she got caught. And she was even distributing and soliciting drugs while on duty and in uniform. And this young lady had been on the force at least 12 years. So she had been what you would consider a veteran police officer. And during this time, this is a recent indictment, while this police officer is seeing all of the stuff that's going on with Mayor Adams' entire cabinet. Not only did he get indicted, but there have been other people under investigation and have been indicted. And she decides to arrogantly and egregiously still not only be a police officer, but be a drug dealer also. And when you hear this story, listen to what she was trying to distribute, her and her boyfriend. And thankfully, she got caught. So she went, here's the hypocrisy and the dichotomy. She took an oath to be respectful, to honor the badge, to do the right thing, and then she crossed that line to become a drug dealer, and luckily she got caught. What could she be thinking under this time, this crisis that's going on in New York, in Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, California, to where a police officer could think that she could get away with being a drug dealer also? Crazy story. Listen to this. Stay with me. A former New York City police officer was arrested last week and charged with selling fentanyl and heroin, and federal prosecutors accused her of negotiating drug deals while on the job. Grace Rosa Baez, 37 of the Bronx, who had been employed with the NYPD since 2012. Remember, this is 2024, so that's 12 years. Was arrested on Thursday and charged with conspiracy to distribute heroin and fentanyl and 3 other counts of narcotics distribution. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York said in a statement Friday. Officer Baez resigned, a police spokesperson said last Sunday. Cesar Martinez, 43 of Yonkers, who shared an apartment with Officer Baez, faces identical charges, also federal prosecutors say. Prosecutors allege that from October 9th until last Thursday, Baez and Martinez had multiple conversations with a confidential source who was working with law enforcement about obtaining drugs for the source for negotiated prices, prosecutors said. Officer Baez and Mr. Martinez offered to sell kilogram quantities of fentanyl, heroin and cocaine, prosecutors said. For example, prosecutors said that on October the 11th, Officer Baez told the confidential source she could sell 2 kilograms of Fenny for $30,000 per kilogram, along with an additional 400 grams of heroin, for which a price would be negotiated later, prosecutors said. On last Monday, prosecutors said Officer Baez met with the confidential source in Yonkers and handed the source a plastic candy container, saying the Fenny was inside. The substance was tested by the police and determined to be heroin, prosecutors said. After Officer Baez's arrest on Thursday, law enforcement officers at the apartment she shared with Martinez saw a package of suspected narcotics being thrown from inside the apartment to outside the apartment. So they were throwing it from inside the apartment to outside the apartment. Inside the apartment, law enforcement discovered a kilogram press machine, as well as additional suspected narcotics that Martinez had apparently attempted to throw outside also. This is why they are making their raid at the apartment. Officer Baez negotiated drug deals while on duty, prosecutors said. One of these instances was on October the 11th, when she spoke with a confidential source about where to meet to discuss drug sales. Authorities said. On October 13th, she negotiated the price and quality of Fenny and arranged to deliver a sample of Fenny to the confidential source. And on Wednesday, she discussed a final delivery with the source, authorities said. How bold. She's doing this on duty. She doesn't even know who she's talking to, but it's a confidential informant, and she's talking about prices, giving samples. I mean, is this mental illness? Is this just hubris and arrogance and narcissism? All of the federal agents that are arresting and locking people up, she's going to do this right under the nose of her own police department, let alone the Eastern and the Southern District of New York and the feds. And then she thought she would get away with it. Been on the force 12 years. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said in a statement, Officer Grace Rosa Baez took an oath to protect and serve the people of New York City. As alleged, she flagrantly violated that oath by pushing poison, including Fenny and heroin, which are driving the nation's deadly opioid crisis and have been responsible for thousands of tragic deaths in the city and around the nation. That's very important because for those of you that follow me, I just did a video a week or two ago on the opioid crisis and gave statistical analysis and numbers of how much the opioid crisis is decimating our society as a whole. And to have a 12-year veteran female police officer, whether she's male or female, but for her to be but she's a female, for her to decide to participate in drug selling of some of the deadliest drugs imaginable that are killing people each and every day, and to do it while she's on duty, in uniform, in her police car, is just unbelievably crazy. She definitely needs to be out of the police force. I don't know what we need to do to have a better vetting for who we're putting in those blue uniforms. Following accusations of misconduct in 2020, the NYPD began to investigate Officer Baez, who was placed on modified duty, prosecutors said. This month, before she resigned, she was assigned to modified desk duty, prosecutors say. So she had already been in trouble since 2020. So there was already a spotlight on her, and they put her in modified duty. But she still had an opportunity to be on patrol, evidently, and she decided that she wanted to be a police officer part-time and a drug dealer full-time. You can't do both. And we all know how that particular scenario, even though she didn't kill or murder one citizen with a gun accidentally, she's out here distributing heavy, um, addictive narcotics that can lead to overdoses immediately, where so her situation is potentially worse than an altercation with an officer and a civilian, and it ends up with a fatality. This woman is spreading some of the strongest drugs, or distributing some of the strongest drugs in her own city that could have killed hundreds of individuals, which makes you think, what kind of charges will she get based on this, and what will she plead to? Could it be attempted murder? We know what this decimation of Finney is doing to people all over this country. Or would she just get charged for distribution? Will the courts make an example of her? I think that she's in a position where she cannot plead ignorance, of course. She is supposed to be a police officer while she's making a conscious decision to commit these kinds of crimes. This is a complete situation of losing complete control of any rational level of consciousness whatsoever. We are in a day and time where people are chasing that bag for by any means necessary. And it's a bag that really doesn't exist, because once you attain part of that bag, especially through illegal or rushed means, is that one bag enough? Or does it become addictive to where you keep doing it, keep pushing the limit, keep pushing the limit, keep pushing the limit? It gets too easy and it gets greedy, and you end up in jail. Miss Grace Rosa Baez is a bad cop and needs to go. She was supposed to protect and serve the citizens of her city, and behind closed doors, she was trying to destroy her city, one person at a time, with this aiding and abetting in the distribution of Finney and heroin out into the city of New York. New York has a lot of things going on, and we have to hope and pray that they can get things together the same way we have to hope and pray that Chicago can get itself together. There's a lot going on out here, and the feds are going to be extremely busy indicting and arresting these people. Public safety is a real issue throughout our country, and we need the right individuals in law enforcement, in the legal community, to serve and protect us each and every day. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.